What's up, everybody? Jump in here. Alright, guys. I'm going to be showing all my builds again. This is going to be all my infiltrators. I'm going to start with the humans. Now, one thing I want to say, the weapon for infiltrators is really up to you. Whatever weapon you like, you can use. They're infiltrators. They make every weapon better. You're going to see a lot of claymores and a lot of harriers because I love the claymore, I love the harrier. So, there you go. Alright, I'm going to start with the human male. Now, the human male, I like to use him for the claymore. He's one of my favorites. I don't go for the sticky grenades on him. I'm not the biggest fan of sticky grenades, to be quite honest. I don't know. They just don't really work for me. And they really hurt my eardrums when I use them. They're so freaking loud. But I love Cryoblast and Claymore. Like, that's a great combination. Alright, for this guy, I like damage, recharge speed, bonus power. For Cryoblast, I like Radius, Cryo Explosion, Frozen Vulnerability. It is a great debuff power. 25% more damage taken, 50% weakened armor, and 15% movement speed penalty. That is amazing. So Cryoblast to this day will probably be the best debuff in the game. The only thing that might come close is Tactical Scan and Recon Mine. Those are pretty good too. Alright, for Alliance Training, I go for weapons damage, headshots, and weapons damage. It is a weapons build. So I hit him with Cryoblast, and I try to shoot him in the face with the Claymore and kill him, one hit. For fitness, just all shields. I set him up to be a little bit more beefy, so that I can run around with the shotgun, getting close, hit him with the Cryoblast, shoot him, all that. Where with the female, I use a sniper rifle. You don't have to set her up for a sniper rifle if you don't want to. There's a lot of things you could do with this build. I like the sniper rifle on her, though, because I think it's good. Like, Cryoblast and Black Widow is a good combination right there. So that's what I tend to do. Alright. For her, I skip the fitness, because if I am going to use a sniper rifle on her, I don't need to get in close. So I can kind of sit back and snipe from a distance, and there you go. For Tactical Cloak, getting confused here. I go for damage, recharge speed, and then sniper rifle damage. You could go for bonus power if you wanted to use another weapon, or you could just go for damage, and then you could scroll down here and go for 4 points in the fitness. So that is an option as well if you don't want to use a sniper rifle, but I do like the human infiltrator for sniping. Cryoblast is the same, radius, cryo explosion, and frozen vulnerability. For sticky grenades, I just go for all bottom. I go for radius, armor damage, or armor piercing, and then proxy trap. Reason for this is because proxy trap is dope. It works just like proxy mine, although it does fail. I gotta be honest. I have thrown sticky grenades on the ground right under the feet of enemies, and they don't detonate. But the point of them is to be kind of like proxy mine. So, proxy mine, its radius is 4.5 meters. So, anything in that radius will be affected by the blast, and also anything that comes within 4.5 meters will detonate the mine. Same with proxy trap. So, that's the idea of it. 1600 damage on her, that's really good, plus the cloak. You can't forget about the cloak, so you're talking about some serious damage. I go for weapons damage on her. I do go for power damage for the grenades, but if I could go back and remake this build, I would maybe go for headshots because I'm using a sniper rifle. I think originally I was kind of tripping, but I do like headshots for sniper rifles just so I can shoot the bosses in the head, and then I go for weapons damage for the sniper, obviously. Alright, moving on to the Silurian. The Silurian is one of my favorite infiltrators. I really like him for the claymore and shotguns and assault rifles. I like him from every weapon. But I also like him for snipers, so that kind of makes it tricky, because I do tend to use my resets on my infiltrators, if anybody. The reason for that is because some of the infiltrators, like the Silurian and the Geth, they're really good with every weapon, and they're really good with snipers. So if I get bored with using them when, like, different weapons, like, let's say the Silurian here with the Claymore, if I get bored, I'll switch them over and use the Black Widow, and I will reset them every time. So for my shotgun build, I go for damage, recharge speed, and bonus power. I like bonus power. A lot of people tend to not like this, or they disagree with me on it. But I like to have that option to choose when I'm going to engage. I like to be able to, like, cloak, use energy drain, get my shields back, and then run away if I want to. If I uncloak in that process, the enemies are definitely gonna aggro on me and shoot me, and then I might die. For proxy mine, I like to leave this at 5 for just radius and damage taken. It's a debuff power. That's how I use it. I use it on anything with armor, anything, any boss, and that's about it. For energy drain, I go for radius, drain, and damage. Not a fan of armor boost. It's on the Infiltrator. I like it. I think it's good, but I prefer the damage because on gold, you can pretty much take the shields of every enemy off in one energy drain if you cloak. So that's really, really, really good. Maybe not phantoms. Phantoms, no. But every other enemy, for the most part, you can take the shields down. So I like that. And I restore more of my shields with that. Alright, for his Silurian operative, I go for weapons damage. I go for headshots because I really like the claymore on him, and the claymore is really easy for getting headshots. I also like power damage, so it's really a toss-up, whichever one you want. Like I said, if you're going to use like a weapon, a shotgun, or if you're going to use the claymore especially, definitely headshots. And then I go for weapons damage. And for fitness, I like 3 points into it just to make them just a little bit more durable. Alright, moving on to the Quarian. I gotta be honest, I never use her. I never ever use her. I don't like her. She's probably my least favorite infiltrator, but she has, she has her benefits, that's for sure. I like to use shotguns or assault rifles on her, so I can use Warfighter Package or Shock Trooper just to get the extra damage and the grenades. Alright, for her build, I like 4 points into damage for cloak, and then 4 points into fitness. Now, you could skip the fitness and go for bonus power or sniper rifle damage if you want to use a sniper rifle on her. It's really up to you. For sticky grenades, it's the same idea. All radius, armor piercing, proxy trap. She gets a little bit more power damage though, so it's like 1700, and the cloak, they're pretty beastly. Sabotage, I hate this power, really don't like it. It's great against Geth, obviously, it works really well. The recharge speed is really long, but on her, because she's an infiltrator, it doesn't matter. And that's good. That is actually really good. So keep that in mind. If you're going to use a sabotage build, I would just recommend using the Quarian Infiltrator. She's an infiltrator, so she gets cloak. There you go. A lot of weapons damage, a lot of power damage. She gets sticky grenades, which aren't terrible. I'm not a fan of them, but they are not bad for sure. And sabotage doesn't have a long recharge because of cloak. So there you go. Alright, for sabotage though, I definitely like backfire. It does a decent amount of damage to them, and it will set them up for tech burst. Only after the backfire occurs though. You have to hit them, and then they have to try to shoot, and then they'll be set up for tech burst. I like Exploding Hack for Geth because every time you use this, you will blow up enemies and do damage. So that's really good. And I like the Tech Vulnerability because it helps me and my teammates. If they get the backfire effect and they're set up for a tech burst, this will make it so that they do more. They'll take more damage from the tech burst. Also, I think it works for cryo and fire explosions. So if you're playing with people running cryo or fire, this will help them. For Quarian Defender, I like weapons damage, power damage. You could go for headshots. All infiltrators can always go for headshots, but I do like power damage for the grenades and the sabotage, and I like weapons damage. And I already showed that, but I go for 4 points into that. Alright, moving on to the Geth, which is one of the best infiltrators. He's real flimsy, but when it comes down to damage, he's like the best one, like in a lot of ways. Now, I'm using a javelin on him. I have him set up for a sniper. This is like, I think, the only guy I have right now, besides the human female, that is set up for a sniper. I do tend to switch him a lot, though, because I like bonus damage, bonus power. If you're going to use a sniper on him, though, definitely the javelin is the way to go. The javelin is super good. If you're going to use the javelin, you definitely want to use phasic rounds, because if you body shot enemies, you will kill them one hit on, like, gold and platinum, or some enemies on platinum. But javelin is amazing. It is a very good gun. Now for the cloak, I go for damage. I like melee damage. I used to always go for recharge speed, but I really like melee damage on him now because I don't know why. I don't know why didn't go for this, because against phantoms, a lot of people, I don't ever see people do this, but the Geth melee is so good, especially against phantoms. It staggers them. It does a decent amount of damage to them. And when you're using a sniper rifle, sometimes like you might just want to run up to them and melee them because you have a sniper rifle. If they get in close, then you might have to melee to help yourself survive. So I definitely like melee damage on him. I have the sniper rifle damage because I'm using the javelin, but if I was using any other gun, and every other gun is really good on him, I'd normally go for bonus power. Once again, I like bonus power just to choose when I'm going to engage the enemy. For proxy mine, I set it up just for the debuff, radius, damage taken. I don't need damage. I don't really think it's necessary. It's all about hitting them with this and then shooting them with your gun and killing them. For hunter mode, now you gotta remember this is a javelin sniper rifle build. I go for power recharge and power damage. Now, if you are using a sniper like a Black Widow, definitely you don't need weapons accuracy. That's the first thing. If you're using any sniper rifle, always go for power recharge because you do not need this. But if you're using anything else like a assault rifle, because a couple of the really like two guns that are really good on them is the Harrier and the Hurricane. You definitely want weapons accuracy if you're going to use those guns, and also the Claymore. Once again, weapons accuracy is great for the Claymore, so keep that in mind. If you're using a Claymore though, you would also probably want power damage because you don't need rate of fire with the Javelin. You have one bullet. You don't need rate of fire with the Claymore because you have one bullet. So power damage is better if you're using those two guns. If you're using a Harrier or Hurricane, whatever, definitely these two are the way to go. I go for damage. That's just what you go for. Now for network AI, I go for weapons damage, headshots, and then weapons damage. I don't need the power damage. Like I said, it's really not meant for that. And the headshots, I on every weapon, Claymore, Service Harrier, Hurricane, whatever I'm using, I like the headshots more. I go for the 3 points in the fitness so that he's just a little bit more beefy because he's so freaking flimsy. I mean, he is so flimsy. Now moving on to the Quarian male. Now this guy's tricky. It's kind of hard to explain. I go for 4 points into this, and I go for 4 points in the scan. And I go for weapons damage and scan. It's 22% more weapons damage. I only ever use it on bosses. And I tend to not use it on bosses because I forget about it or I don't think about it. If you're a person who actually uses scan, then yeah, this is the build for you. If you're like me and you do not ever use scan or you forget or you just don't care, I wouldn't recommend tactical scan. I can't. So instead, what I like to do generally is I go for damage, recharge speed, and then I go sniper rifle damage. You do not need bonus power. That's the last thing you need. Sniper rifle damage. Now, even if I'm not using a sniper, I like this. The reason why is because at any point I could switch to a sniper. So I can be using a Harrier for platinum, and if I'm going to go play gold, I can strap on a sniper rifle. Or really, you can use a sniper rifle on any difficulty, but I do like that. But if I want that, I have to skip scan. But I never use scan. So like I said, it's complicated. It depends on how you play the game. So that's the way I'll leave it at that. Alright. Now for the Arcanates, damage, electrical damage, armor piercing. You don't need shield overload on the Infiltrator because he's an Infiltrator. 80% more damage to the grenades means that you'll pretty much take the shields down in one grenade every time. So armor piercing is definitely better for the Infiltrator. On the Demolisher and on the Quarian Male Engineer, I like the shield overload, but on him, like I said, the cloak makes up for it. Armor piercing all day. Now for Quarian Defender, I go for weapons damage, power damage for the grenades, and then weapons damage, and for fitness, all shields. So that's that build. Now moving on to the Shadow. I like the Shadow. She's really chillax. I really like the Wraith on her because I can get 200% recharge speed with it. Let's take a look and see what I have. See, I have 140 or whatever. Let's go ahead and do the weight glitch just to see what I can get on it. Okay, apparently that didn't work, but whatever. Anyway, I don't know why that didn't work. Let me think. It doesn't matter because if you're using a default gun, you should be able to have that weight glitch occur, even in game or whatever. So basically, though, now the Wraith, I like the Wraith because it's a pretty light shotgun. It has good damage, all that. I do think the ginormous melee attachment gives you more bang for your buck. I really do. You could also use a pistol maybe for power damage bonus. Power damage does affect Shadow Strike. A lot of people don't think it does, but it does. It's just like electrical hammer and biotic hammer. It affects it. So you with a pistol you can have power magnifier and melee stunner. That's a pretty good combo. But I really do think that you get more damage if you just use like the big melee attachment. Now for her build, I like duration. You don't need damage. You tend to one-hit almost every enemy, and the ones that don't die in one hit will die from electrical damage. So duration is nice because you can stay cloaked for a while and keep shadow striking to get the 2 shadow strikes off. And for devices and all that, it does help because you can be cloaked throughout the entire device duration. Melee damage, this is obvious. Bonus power, you want to get off 2 strikes, shadow strikes. For Shadow Strike, I like damage, electrical damage. It's really good because against things like Pyros, Hunters, and Phantoms, after you hit them with the Shadow Strike, they will actually die from this. They won't die from one hit, but they'll be left with like 2 or 3 bars left, and if you just run away, they'll die. You don't actually have to melee them or clean them up, anything like that. They'll just literally die. Shield Drain is great because it will help keep you alive. You can just Shadow Strike everything, and if they have shields, you'll drain it. So that's fantastic. I go for damaging capacity and power damage because, like I said before, it does apply to this. It makes it stronger. So there you go. I go for weapons weight. I don't know why I go for weapons weight. That might have been a mistake. I would probably recommend weapons damage. I tend not to shoot much, but I would go for weapons damage. It's been a while since I made this build, but I think the reason for this was because when I made it, I was using the Wraith, and I can get 200%. Maybe this is the reason why the weight glitch wasn't working. I don't know, but weapons damage I would recommend probably. For her sword mastery, I go for damage, sword damage, martial artist, and then armor damage. Don't need shield damage. Like I said, I don't play her on platinum. I would never play her on platinum. I just recommend if you're gonna play her on silver or gold or whatever you play. She's not really. I don't see her as a platinum build. I see her as a it's gold build, just to have fun, relax, not have to really try hard. Because all you gotta do is press cloak and then shadow strike. I mean, you press like 2 buttons the entire time you play with her. So she's real easy. Armor damage is good though for pyros, dragoons, bombers, bosses, reapers. There you go. Like armor damage is the way to go, and it sets your sword on fire, which is really cool. All right, let me go ahead. All right, we're gonna go to the Turian Ghost. I'm going to test something real quick. Oh, okay. I'm tripping. Okay, I'm tripping. I was thinking about the weight glitch. Okay, and I realized what I did wrong. What I did wrong is that if the weight glitch is actually automatically applied. Like if you didn't know that, so if you just like equipped, I don't know, if you equipped like a default gun and then you put on any of the new attachments to it, when you start the game up, it will make it so that that weight that's added is like not actually like it doesn't actually stay on, so you lose that weight. But anyway. I messed up earlier when I did that because I was tripping. If you check your weapon, it reapplies it. So, oops. Alright, now for the Turian Ghost, this guy, he's a no-brainer. One of the best infiltrators in the game. I really do think that. But my build for him is a little funky right now because I constantly like switch him up to try new things. I haven't tried this yet, but I wanted to. But let me go ahead and get into it. So the cloak stays the same. I highly recommend damage, and I really do recommend melee damage. The reason for this is because of phantoms. If you cloak overload, you should take their barriers down, and then if you do your heavy melee, you'll knock them on their ass. His melee is really good, especially against phantoms. Once they're like knocked down, you can shoot them and kill them. It's real easy. So that's what I recommend for him. I go for assault rifle damage. That's pretty obvious. For stim packs, I always keep it the same. Damage, duration, weapons damage, just for max weapons damage. Now the overload is a little tricky because generally I do go for damage, neural shock, and then chain overload. And the reason why I like that is because his overload is really powerful, and he has cloak. So generally, you can take down the shields of every enemy. As long as you cloak and overload, you can take down those shields. Now for platinum, you sometimes, especially against phantoms, you won't take down all their barriers, and some enemies you might not take down all their shields. So I wanted to experiment, and I went for chain overload, neural shock, and then shield damage. So, like I said, this is a little different because I'm just testing it. Like I said, it's up to you. If you want to try, generally, like I said, I go for damage, neural shock, and chain, but test it the way you want. So this is what I'm using right now, so that's what I'll show. I go for weapons damage and then power damage. I generally do go for headshots. So I would definitely say do not go for power damage. Go for headshots for the bosses. If if you're gonna go for shield damage for 100% more damage, you'll be guaranteed to take down the shields of like every enemy on every difficulty. So keep that in mind. And because of that, you don't need power damage. There's no point. So go for the headshots. And then finally weapons damage. And that's about it for him. So Turian Ghost is really good. Like I said, my build's a little funky because I do switch him up quite a bit. Just to test him out because he's like my favorite person in the game to play as. Alright, now for the Drell. For the Drell, I use him as a kind of a weapons build more than anything else. So I'll get into that. I like the Harrier on him because when I platinum speedrun, either I play with him, the Ghost, or the Geth Infiltrator. So that's kind of the idea of this build. Alright, now for Cloak, I go for 4 points into it. You do not need bonus power. I don't use sniper rifles on them, so you don't need all of that. For homing grenades, I like radius, capacity, because platinum speedrunning. Fire damage, I don't really see the effect of that all that much. So I like the capacity in general, especially on him. And if you're gonna platinum speedrun, this is nice. And then I go for armor damage. This debuffs armor 50% for weapons. So that's kind of the idea. Anything that has armor, you hit them with the homing grenade and you shoot them with the Harrier or whatever gun you're using. The Hurricane's really good on them as well. For recon mine, I go for radius, damage, and then I go for invasive scan. I don't really like to detonate it. I like to just kind of throw it out in the area, let it scan the enemies, debuff the enemies for me, hit them with the homing grenade, get this effect. They're super debuffed, and I shoot them with the Claymore, the Harrier, the Hurricane. Those are guns I like on them. Alright, now for Drell Assassin, I go for weapons damage, headshots, and then weapons damage. Like I said, don't need the power damage because I treat them like a weapons debuffing build. For fitness, I just go 4 points into it. So that's the Drell Assassin for you. He's he's pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of him though. Like, he's really good for platinum speedrunning, but outside of that, I don't really have all that much fun with him. Now for the Asari Huntress. Now, I do think she's really good. If you're going to use her, though, I like to use Incendiary Ammo or Warp Rounds 4 on her to do the whole Incendiary Ammo glitch, or to do, or to just, make my gun really powerful with the Warp Rounds. Alright, for Cloak, I go for damage, and then I go for melee damage. I don't see the point of power damage. You might wonder why. I use her as a weapons build. Yeah, a lot of people disagree with me. They're like, oh, she's a... Why would you use her as a weapons build? It's like, well, even if she is a power build, I have the powers on her. You know what I mean? And, like, I like to play where my teammates will detonate explosions. That's good. But generally, like, power damage, like, this ain't gonna really do much for you. The only thing it will do is make Dark Channel more powerful, that's cool, but I don't see the point of that. Like, I'd rather just go for melee damage. Well, I'd rather just stop at melee damage. The reason why I say melee damage is the same idea, phantoms. if you go against phantoms, you can heavy melee them, and her heavy melee is really good. It does a lot of damage, so this is really good. For Dark Channel, I go for damage, slow, and then pierce. For warp, I go for detonate, expose, and then pierce. And for Huntress, I go weapons damage, power damage, and weapons damage. And for fitness, I go 3 points into it. Generally, the way I like to play with her is I warp the enemy, I shoot him with the claymore, or if I'm playing with like, or I'll dark channel enemies as well. But you only have to dark channel once in a while because it jumps. So you gotta remember that. I've seen people run around with dark channel and they'll use it, that's the only power they use. They just dark channel everything, and they keep dark channeling everything. It doesn't stack, like, it hurts the other player's ears. It's so loud when someone uses this power. So if you see a group of enemies, yeah, dark channel them and then blow them up, kill them, but the dark channel will keep jumping to target to target to target until all those enemies in that area is dead. So keep that in mind. Now for the final one, Miss Robotits, the Sexbot, the Alliance Infiltration Unit. Weapon-wise, any shotgun is fine. Rear Carbine is really good on her. Claymore's really good on her. So there you go. The Wraith is really good on her. For Cloak, I like damage. I have recharge speed here, but melee damage, I would probably recommend this once again. Like, her melee is really good. I don't ever do it, but her melee is really good. So this is up to you. And then shotgun damage. Although bonus power is kind of nice on her too, because the shotgun damage is a little weird. If you're playing off host, I think the only way to get this to apply is to, and if you're going to play with her, this, especially off host, this is the way you need to play with her. You shoot, then you snap freeze. Like if you're using a claymore, you shoot, you snap freeze. And if you're using like incinerating ammo, for example, that will give you fire explosions anyway, so that's a good strategy. But if you want this shotgun damage to apply, I'm pretty confident you have to shoot and then snap freeze. If you snap freeze and shoot, you lose this damage. At least that's what I've heard. So keep that in mind. Alright, now for snap freeze, I go for reach, cryo explosion, and then damage and slow. You know, I talked about this with the Paladin, so this is the way you want to set her up. For repair matrix, I like survivability, duration, and enhanced repair matrix. This got nerfed, but it's still really good. So don't get deluded thinking that she's like unusable now. She's still really, really good. For her Unshackle AI, I go for weapons damage, headshots, and then weapons damage. Alright, so that's all my infiltrators. You know, this has been the first time where I've like kind of been a little like, oh, you know, hey, whoa. Because a lot of these builds, I don't promote my infiltrator. I never promote them. So although a couple of the builds were a little like off, like a little bit like I didn't go for headshots on a couple of them or something. Like I said, I tend to use my reset cards on my infiltrators because I don't promote these guys, because at any point, if I want to go platinum speedrun or play platinum, and if I want to play the infiltrator, I have a level 20. So there you go. But anyway, you know, I hope you have enjoyed this. Please like and favorite this video for me. That would really help me out. And you guys have a nice day.